Carlos Ramsey's with the Enhancing Mind. What if I told you that by the end of this talk, you will be living in a state of abundance or close to it? Would you believe me? Let's see. In Chapter 14, The Master Mindset, I discussed the importance of internal dialogue. As you know, words are reality, and if we can accurately define and describe our world, then we can react to our world appropriately, with appropriate emotional responses and thought patterns that then become appropriate actions that eventually shape our reality. But what if we're not accurately defining and describing our world? What if we don't have the words or the descriptive capacity to define where we live and how we live? Check this out. In English, we have like, what, 13 different words for ice? You know, like ice, slush, snow, sleet, and I don't know the rest. I'm from California. Don't sue me. But it's said that Eskimos that live in these frozen environments may have up to 30 different words to describe 30 different states of ice. But why do the Eskimos need so many different words to describe the same thing? Why not just call it all ice? Because being able to accurately describe your world allows you to prepare, plan, and utilize your world much more effectively. If you don't have a word to describe an area or a thing in your life, and just use the closest available word, your ability to understand that thing accurately will always be off by that much. And if we can't accurately define where we can't express ourselves accurately. We can't plan accurately. We can't have an accurate worldview. As a result, in the context of scarcity and abundance, many of us are suffering emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually, because no matter how much we push, no matter how hard we try, we can't seem to get out of this, out of a state of scarcity. Everyone wants to get out of scarcity and live in a state of abundance, but few people know what that actually means outside of, being a millionaire or something. And because our definition of abundance is off, our experience of abundance is off. Like the dangling carrot tied to a stick in front of us, it seems like the more we run towards it, the more elusive abundance becomes. But what would happen if we got rid of our own interpretation of abundance and instead replaced it with the actual definition of abundance? What would happen to our worldview? What would happen to our emotional state? Let's find out. According to Merriam-Webster.com, and feel free to look this up yourself, the definition of abundance is, and I quote, an ample quantity. Okay, cool. What does ample mean? Ample means generous or more than adequate in size, scope, or capacity. So it seems abundance is a state above adequate. If you've heard my other talks on chapter 3, the chapter polarity, I talk about life being a volume dial rather than a coin with only heads or tails as options. Many of us see the world in this duality perspective, in this coin. Things are hot or cold, good or evil, happy or sad. And the way we view abundance has fallen under this dichotomy. As a result, limiting your ability to see abundance in your own life. Right now, all you see is scarcity and abundance, and you drop yourself in one of those two buckets. But remember, life is a volume dial that can be adjusted, not a coin that can only be flipped on or off. But in order for us to believe this, we need to be able to see the entire scale of what's possible. Okay, so then what else is there other than scarcity and abundance? Well, here's the scale as I see it. There is scarcity, adequacy, abundance, and excess. Those are the four standards of living that you can be in. And I'm sure if we were to find other words to accurately describe what's in between each state, we would be able to further understand where our lives actually are. But for now, we'll just keep these four. Okay, so your capacity of resources or standard of living just increased by two brackets. You now have adequate and excess thrown in the mix. How does that change how you view the world now? Unless you were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which, most of us aren't, you probably saw your life somewhat in a state of scarcity. You also probably confused abundance with excess. Well, no wonder you're so frustrated with life. With those definitions, scarcity seems to follow you everywhere, while abundance is only available to the 1% of earners. Of course you're frustrated. Of course you're angry. Of course you're hurt. You set the goalpost way too far out, when in reality, the goalpost has been right in front of you. You thought you wanted abundance, but what you've really been looking for was excess. And yeah, that goalpost is further out for most people. But okay, let's define these four living standards to better understand where we actually sit in the grand scheme of things. You ready? Let's get after it. Scarcity. When I think of scarcity, I think the homeless, right? People that don't know where their next meal is coming from, don't know where they will sleep, incapable of planning for the future because their present demands all of their attention just to survive another week. Does this describe you? Let's move on to the next one. Adequacy. When I think adequacy, I think paycheck to paycheck. Just enough for shelter, food, and clothes. Some stability, so long as resources are rationed properly until the next check or until the next obtainment of resources. Does adequacy describe you? Now let's go to abundance. Think fun, right? Cool stuff. That when I think of abundance, that's what I think about. When I think abundance, I think shelter, food, and clothing not being a worry, unless you overspend on the fun stuff. Stability is high in abundance, so long as some financial and resource discipline is still practiced. You are capable of indulging in a little excess from time to time without jeopardizing your shelter, food, or clothes. Right? You can go to nicer restaurants from time to time. Maybe get yourself a nice bottle of scotch or some jewelry here and there. The way I like to think about it like this: if you donate or sell stuff from time to time, you're probably in a pretty solid place of abundance. So ask yourself this: does abundance describe your life? Okay, let's go to excess. We all know what excess is. It's what you thought abundance was. The cup overfloweth, as they say. Shelter, food, and clothes aren't ever in jeopardy. In fact, the standard of shelter, food, and clothes is far superior than in a state of abundance. All resources are bigger and better, not because they have to be, simply because they can be. All right, your living standards have been redefined. I even gave you two extra. So now let me ask you this: what standard of living do you live in? Which one accurately described your life right now? You will find that the majority of us live in between adequate and abundant states. Most of us are already in abundance or close to it. For those of us that might not be in abundance just yet, how does it feel knowing that abundance isn't actually that far away? Does it increase your drive? Does it increase your self esteem? How do you feel now knowing that abundance is actually pretty obtainable? For those of you that are finding out that you've been in abundance this whole time, how does it feel realizing that you were where you always wanted to be? Does it relax you? Does it increase your level of gratitude for your life? It should. Have you ever thought you lost your keys? Flipping couch pillows in a rage, rambling off about how you can never find your effing keys and this always happens when you have to leave, only to find out that they were already in your pocket? That has happened to everyone at least once. It's happened to me like 100 times. But let me ask you this: how do you feel knowing that your keys were right where you needed them to be all along? What happens to all that anger and rage the second you realize your keys were with you the entire time? Makes you feel a little silly, doesn't it? Makes you realize that the anger was unnecessary and unjustified, right? Okay, so let me ask you this. If you would have known your keys were in your pocket the whole time, would you have ever experienced that anger and frustration to begin with? Probably not. The same applies here. You've been looking for abundance under couch pillows in frustration and rage when most of us have had it in our pocket or at least within reach the entire time. This is the importance of proper categorization, proper definitions, proper words. Words and their definitions help you describe your life. If you don't have the right words, the right definitions, you won't be able to accurately define your environment to yourself, which will then lead to, or maybe already has led to, inaccurate emotional responses, unjustified rage, unjustified frustration, inaccurate worldviews, inaccurate beliefs. If you don't use the proper definitions, you will live your life thinking that you are still in some form of scarcity when in reality you've been in a state of adequacy or abundance for quite some time, maybe even your entire life. But if you're sitting on a pot of gold and you don't know what gold actually is, as far as you're concerned, you're just sitting on an uncomfortable chair. Know what you're looking for. Welcome to abundance. This is it. Not so glamorous, is it? Abundance definitely wouldn't make it on any extravagant TV show. That's for sure. There's no red carpets and tuxedos for abundance, right? Abundance is a little more than just enough. But abundance doesn't have to be glamorous to be beautiful, and we don't have to be in a state of excess to be grateful. The foundation to lasting abundance is gratitude. Learn to be grateful for every night that you sleep under a roof, every day the lights turn on. Be grateful for the daily sips of clean water and the delicious bites of food and the fresh clothes on your back. The entire animal kingdom is jealous of you right now. Half of the world's population is jealous of you right now. And if you take anything away from today, let it be this. Gratitude is the one virtue that can be applied to any state we're in, from scarcity to excess. Learn to make gratitude your default state of being, and you will always have plenty. That's all I've got for you. Carlos Ramsey's with the Enhancing Mind. Talk to you soon.